Every country has one. Not the rival who knocked them out, one of their own. A player who pulled on the shirt and somehow ended up more hated by his own fans than any opponent ever managed. Sometimes it's for what they said, sometimes for walking out on the team, or for that one moment nobody could ever forgive. France. Let's start with France, with probably the most famous meltdown in World Cup history. 2010, South Africa. It kicks off at half-time of a group game against Mexico, with France losing. Striker Nicolas Anelka and coach Raymond Domenech get into it in the dressing room. And whatever Anelka said was bad enough that it ended up splashed across the front pages 2 days later. The federation asks him to apologize. He refuses, so they send him home before the next game. And that's when it really comes apart. The next morning, the squad turns up for training, cameras rolling, fans watching, and Captain Patrice Evra gets into a furious row with one of the fitness coaches. The players decide they've had enough, climb back onto the bus, and pull the curtains shut. On strike. At a World Cup. Domenech is left standing in front of the cameras, reading out a statement the players had written, basically announcing to the world that his own squad had stopped listening to him. France lose their last game, finish bottom of the group, and fly home in disgrace. Anelka picks up an 18-match ban, Evra gets 5 and loses the armband. France have had plenty of worse players over the years, but never a worse week than that one. And the fans have never really let those two forget it. Argentina. Over to Argentina, who just won the whole thing in 2022 with a squad full of national heroes. And then there's the one man who never got to be part of any of it, Mauro Icardi. Icardi has exactly one cap for Argentina. One. And the reason's pretty simple. While he was at Sampdoria, he started seeing the wife of his own teammate and good mate, Maxi Lopez, and then married her. The dressing room never forgave it. Coach Tata Martino left him out and put it down to conduct. And Maradona was even blunter, saying traitors shouldn't get called up at all. So one of the best strikers Argentina has produced this century spent his entire career watching the national team from the sofa. Now, you might be sitting there thinking we've forgotten about Gonzalo Higuain. No chance. His is just a completely different crime. Higuain didn't put a foot wrong off the pitch. He just couldn't deliver on it when it mattered most. The 2014 World Cup final, clean through on goal, puts it wide. The 2015 Copa final, misses a sitter, and then his penalty in the shootout. The 2016 final, clean through again, wide again. 3 finals in 3 years, no trophy. 2 very different men, both frozen out by the same public. Icardi for what he got up to off the pitch, Higuain for what he couldn't do on it. England. And we're going back to 1998 for this one. Saint-Étienne, round of 16 against Argentina, and crash out. And the whole country decides it was Beckham's fault. What followed was genuinely ugly. They hung an effigy of him outside a London pub. He got death threats in the post. The Mirror ran the headline, 10 heroic lions, 1 stupid boy. For a solid year, he was booed at every ground in the country that wasn't Old Trafford. And then he turned the whole thing around, became England captain, scored that last-minute free kick against Greece to drag them to the 2002 World Cup, then buried the penalty that beat Argentina at the actual tournament. The most hated man in the country ended up one of the most loved. It's the rare one where the story actually gets a happy ending. Couple of others worth a word here, because England fans do love turning on their own. Harry Maguire got booed by his own supporters at Wembley before he eventually won them back. Raheem Sterling took years of abuse. The difference is, with those two, it was more that England lost patience with them. With Beckham, at least for that first year, it was the real thing. Spain. Spain's pick is one of the most surprising ones because Gerard Pique literally won them a World Cup and they booed him anyway. For years, every time he turned out for Spain on home soil, a big chunk of his own fans would whistle at him the second he touched the ball. Part of that was him winding up Real Madrid at every opportunity, but most of it was politics. Pique openly backed Catalan independence, and after the 2017 referendum, it boiled right over, with fans at an open training session chanting at him to leave and waving banners the police actually came and confiscated. A World Cup winner and a European champion getting jeered by the very country he'd won it all for, until he'd had enough and walked away from the national team after 2018. Brazil. 7-1 loss versus Germany. Somebody was always going to have to carry the blame for the most humiliating night in their history, and that somebody was Fred. He was Brazil's main striker at their own home World Cup. He'd actually been top scorer at the warm-up tournament a year earlier, but at the big one, he managed only a single goal. And while Germany were busy putting 7 past them in the semi, on home soil, the cameras kept cutting to his face on the big screen, and the crowd would jeer it. He retired from international football a few days later. Honestly, he wasn't even close to the worst player out there that night. He was just the easiest target. There's a second name for Brazil too, and it's a proper sore one: Diego Costa. Born in Brazil, capped by Brazil, and then he turned around and chose to play for Spain instead. Brazilians treated him like a man who'd betrayed the whole country. Fred got blamed for one terrible night. With Costa, it was personal. USA. Now the USA, and this one's a bit different because the World Cup is being played there as we speak in 2026, and their pick is the lad they nearly chucked out of the last one. Reyna went to Qatar in 2022 and barely got on the pitch, and it came out afterwards that coach Greg Berhalter had come close to sending him home over his attitude in training. When that leaked, Reyna's family fired back by dragging an old off-field allegation against Berhalter into the open, and the whole national team basically imploded in public. Reyna's back for the home tournament, and he wasted no time answering the question. Brought on with the game already won in their opener against Paraguay, he curled a stunning one into the top corner in the dying seconds, and a sold-out Los Angeles roared for him. For a player they'd nearly thrown out 3 years earlier, you don't get a cleaner turnaround than that. Worth mentioning alongside him is Jonathan Gonzalez, an American-born kid who came all the way up through the US youth setup, and then, after the US failed to even qualify for the 2018 World Cup, decided to go and play for Mexico instead. He's not exactly hated, he's more the one that got away, and worst of all, to the team Americans can't stand at all. Mexico. Seamless transition intended. Carlos Vela, a player Mexican fans have a very specific grievance with because he kept telling them no. Vela could have been the face of that team for a decade. Instead, after a fallout with the federation, he just walked away from it, skipping the 2011 Gold Cup, the 2013 Confederations Cup, and, the one that really stung, the 2014 World Cup, all by his own choice. Nobody ever doubted the talent. What they doubted was whether he cared. And there's a phrase they kept throwing at him: pecho frio, cold-blooded, all that ability and no real heart for the shirt. He'd give them the odd glimpse and then vanish again. And for a country that lives and breathes its national team, a player who could so easily take it for granted was never going to be forgiven. Belgium. Belgium gave us the slightly surreal sight of one of the best goalkeepers on the planet going on strike against his own country. Back in 2023, Thibaut Courtois walked out on Belgium. He got passed over for the captain's armband, fell out badly with coach Domenico Tedesco over it, and simply refused to play, staying away for the best part of 2 years and sitting out a whole European Championship in the process. He only came back in 2025, once Tedesco had been shown the door. A keeper right at the peak of his powers, deciding his country could get by without him for 2 years. Belgium still hasn't quite made up its mind whether that's forgivable. Netherlands. The Netherlands are a funny one, because if you ask who their most hated player is, you'll get a different answer from everybody. Falling out with each other is practically the Dutch national sport. The one that truly blew up was Edgar Davids at Euro '96. Davids, 23 at the time, got dropped, wasn't happy about it, and told a reporter the coach needed to get his head out of the senior players' backsides. Guus Hiddink sent him home that same day. Behind it was a genuine split in the squad. Younger players who just won the European Cup, who'd found out the older lads were on better money. And in fairness to Davids, it wasn't the end for him. 2 years later, he was one of their best players at the 1998 World Cup. And he's nowhere near the only one. Before Italia '90, the reigning European champions lost faith in their coach, and he was gone right before the tournament. 4 years later, Ruud Gullit, a Ballon d'Or winner, the captain who'd won them the Euros, walked out of the pre-World Cup training camp after 1 row too many with the manager and never pulled on the shirt again. So you can't really pin this one on a single player. With the Dutch, the fallout is just part of the deal. Germany. And we'll finish in Germany with Mesut Ozil, and this one's genuinely more sad than anything. Ozil was a World Cup winner and a 5-time German Player of the Year. Then, in 2018, he posed for a photo with the president of Turkey, and the reaction back home was instant and brutal. When Germany got knocked out of that summer's World Cup in the group stage, a big section of the country basically pinned it on him. He walked away from international football for good, and the line he left behind cut right through Germany. He said he was German when they won, and an immigrant when they lost. He's not a straightforward villain at all. He's a player who decided his own country had stopped wanting him, in an argument Germany is honestly still having with itself. That's the list. You already know how this works. Drop your nation and your pick in the comments, and let's get into it. And tell me who I've got completely wrong. See you in the next one.